So we're going to get into this question of the interfaith dialogue. Everything I've said so far is just by way of entree to the interfaith dialogue, because you have to understand who the Brotherhood is to understand that when they write this book. And you know, I did leave a couple verses out. I'll go to them afterwards to read to you what that document said about what their plan in America is. And it's a direct lift off of their plan from the Lugano, Switzerland document that was written in 1982. But this interfaith dialogue is about an attack on reason. In fact, the entire postmodern attack, politically correct, if you want to use the word political correctness, what I'm trying to get people to understand is political correctness is not random. It is the enforcement mechanism of a postmodern cultural Marxist narrative that seeks to redefine terms in a hostile way. So what I want to do is the assault on reason. And I give people, you know, because I'm talking to people who haven't had any logic, so I want to take a basic concept of logic that in many logic classes they don't teach because it's so basic it doesn't need to be taught. And I feel a need to teach it to understand this is the point of attack. This is the point of attack, not from the Brotherhood, but from the left. That in the 1980s, when the Brotherhood said we're going to use the word Islamophobia, and then the OIC adopted the word Islamophobia, okay, they had already assessed that this narrative was going to take down the West. Okay? So, and it's an assault on reason. Go ahead. So, Socrates, it is plain that the same thing won't be willing at the same time to do or suffer opposites with respect to the same part and in relation to the same thing. Okay? I just want to give quotes to tell you how classical this is. And let me make something very clear. This is the basis of Western thinking. If you go to China, one of the most destructive things that happened when China was being taken over by Europe and America, and they saw there was they got them very addicted to drugs, right? Yeah. They also put in a new way of thinking, which was non-Chinese, Confucianism. So you don't have to be a Confucian. You don't have to be someone who believes in Confucianism in China to understand the thinking processes of China are based on that. You wipe that out, the Chinese have a hard time thinking. And what you see today is you see China reforming, not the least of which is they're returning to this Confucianism way of thinking. And as it becomes reintegrated, they become more self-assured. I'm trying to use this as a bad analogy to reason is the basis of Western thinking, going all the way back to the Greeks. Okay? Christianity integrated into that, because I'm coming from the philosophical point of view here, you could from a theological point come from a different point, reconciled itself with that. If you take reason out of Western thinking, the Western mind collapses. Okay? This is the basic attack. So Aristotle, it is impossible for the same attribute at once to belong and not belong to the same thing and in the same relation. Okay, Augustine, the truth is that which is. Aquinas, the same thing cannot be affirmed and denied at the same time. Go ahead. It's the principle of non-contradiction. It's really just a question of apples and oranges. So I want to set this up to talk about what apples and oranges is to go forward here. Go ahead. So, if you are an apple, you are an apple. That's the law of definition. If you are an apple, you are not an orange. That's the law of that's the law of the excluded middle. If you are an apple, you are not an apple. That's the law of non-contradiction. Make sense? Relativism, postmodernism, social Marxism is to say you could be a man and a woman. You could be Catholic and you can accept Islam philosophically. Okay? You can be someone who believes in what you believe and believe that another belief is every bit as valuable in your mind. But if you get yourself to say, I believe, the analogy I like to do is, let's just say I'm Catholic, you're Jewish, you're Muslim, you're Buddhist, you belong to a weird snake cult from Africa, and I don't know anything about it, but I know you're one of them. You're important in this discussion because you're the person I know nothing about when I say that what you think is every bit as important as what I say. Because you see, I could talk to a Jew, and a Jew we have a certain basis of agreement or disagreement. I could talk to a Muslim, and there's even a gap. But when we finally get to him, so why am I saying this? The classic definition of tolerance, which has been redefined by the left, Alinskyism, the classic definition of tolerance is, I'm Catholic, you're Jewish, you're Muslim, you're Hindu, and you belong to some religion I don't know nothing about. The classic definition of tolerance is, I believe that you have a right to practice your religion, and you have a right to expect that I'll give you the right to practice your religion. But I don't have to accept what you believe, because in fact I don't believe it. In fact, I don't believe. I'm only saying...
Neither appreciate.
And I don't have to appreciate it. I just, okay, the Alinskyist, the cultural Marxist redefinition of tolerance is this. You know, I believe what you believe is every bit as valuable as what I believe. And you see what happens there is you are negating your own belief. Because your belief is only as valuable as something you don't even know about. You think you're saying it to affirm him, but actually the goal is to deny you. Okay? See how that works? And the same thing works in the context of tolerating other societies. Well, of course, if you go to Spain, you should tolerate the Spaniards. But if you go to Spain and you're not a tourist, you want to live there, at some point you have to make a decision to become Spanish. Or get out. And more importantly, the Spanish have a right to say, hey, you're welcome. And if you want to stay, you could become a Spanish citizen. But you don't have a right to come and say, hey, I want to move in Spain, I want to have my laws in my country. You see, this is the attack. And please understand, this attack is being grafted on by the OIC. But it's one that's in the destruction of nationality. The destruction of your right to have an identity. Okay? It's an attack on identity.
We had that yesterday too, if you remember.
Absolutely.
That was complete destruction.
There was a lot of that.
Yes.
The tyranny of when apples equal. We're talking today. I made this because I first gave this to a group of conservative Catholics in America. And at the time, Pope Benedict used the phrase extreme relativism. Okay? And so, it's the tyranny of when apples equal oranges. And holding you and sending you to jail. Back in the time of Orwell in his book 1984, remember, it's being interrogated. 1 + 1 = 5. And you're not getting out of here until you say 1 + 1 = 5. That's this. That's what you're seeing being implemented. Go ahead. We're talking about the death of discernment, the total destruction of discernment. And what I want to do is I'm going to introduce something from my experience in Montgomery County, and I will challenge you. I already know it's true because I just went to the CIIC, the Abdulaziz Center here, and I was with Henrik here, and we realized we were talking to someone who had simply not the ability to discern what they were doing. They were Austrian citizens. And it would be no different if the same facility were in America, or if it were in Copenhagen. It's what has, you know, if I talk to Americans who are like in their 40s or 50s, I say, do you ever notice how you raise your kids and they all hate you? And, yeah, what's that all about? And everybody kind of laughs. I said, well, what do you think happened in those schools that happened? Well, go ahead. So I want to use an example from Maryland, where I live. It's called, the interfaith group there is called Action in Montgomery County. Go ahead. And here it is. This is the interfaith movement group inside Montgomery County. Go ahead. And they say AIM's sister IAF affinities in Maryland. And you see, I think I have it blow up, but all the emails are IAF. Here's Voices Virginia, Voice IAF Virginia. You see how they all have IAF in their email? Now, I know you know what IAF is, because she already told you, but we'll get to it. Okay? So what is Industrial Areas Foundation? Go ahead.
Bingo.
Industrial Areas Foundation. Keep going. Here they are, IAF. We could go to go ahead. We could go to Wikipedia. Go ahead. It's a national community organizing network established by Saul Alinsky in 1940. So what do we know? We know that religious groups are oriented interfaith entity created by a man who is a cultural Marxist, whose book is dedicated to Lucifer. Now, if I go to a church group and brief this, I say, do you know, this is the point where we should end the brief because nothing more need be said. If you're in a church group and you actually have faith. But of course, we never stop there. Go ahead. So here we have a page here, and here are all the churches in Montgomery County that participate. And I gave this, and they're all, here you have a synagogue, here you have Seventh-day Adventists, here you have Anglicans, here you have Presbyterians. I don't know what these are, but they are. And of course, the Catholic Church is in there too.